All right, it's time to talk basketball. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He's Steve Priscello, longtime educator, vice principal, high school coach, and athletic director. And this is the 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts Overtime podcast. Steve and I, during the offseason, have been discussing NBA stars from the 60s and 70s with someone who watched them play, that being Steve. It's been a great offseason, in addition to discussing some of the greatest players in NBA history, including Will Chamberlain, Sam Jones, Rick Barry, Pistol Pete, Bill Russell, and very many more. We were fortunate enough to interview current NBA referee Scott Foster and two NBA champions, Kevin Greavy and Tom Henderson. So it's been a really great NBA offseason here at 13 Rules. Today, thanks to the recommendation of Chris, a listener, we are continuing to discuss arguably the greatest rivalry in sports history. In fact, the greatest decade of the greatest rivalry in sports history, the 1980s battles between the two winningest franchises in NBA history, the LA Lakers and the Boston Celtics. So a quick recap to get you to where we are. In the 80s, Magic Johnson started off the decade by leading the Lakers against the Philadelphia 76ers as a rookie to win the NBA championship. In 81, Larry Bird was joined by Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish, to meet the Houston Rockets and win that finals in 6 games. The Lakers returned to the finals in 82, this time led by Pat Riley. In a rematch against the Sixers, the Lakers won in 6. 83, the Sixers traded for Moses Malone. He and Dr. J won the 83 NBA Finals, sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers. Then in 84, finally, we got to see the Lakers versus the Celtics, something every NBA fan wanted. We discussed that in an earlier show. We'll make sure to link that below. And, we'll let you see, how that turned out. Steve and I reminisced about the 84 finals then. 85, NBA got a rematch. We discussed that last week. And then we go to 1986. Now, Lakers fans, look away. In 1986, Ralph Sampson kept the Lakers from joining the party against the Celtics, which would have been wonderful for NBA fans everywhere to see that matchup again. The Boston Celtics made it. Lakers did not, thanks to Ralph Sampson and his hook over Michael Cooper. Arguably, I think, probably the best, if not one of the best Boston Celtics teams ever assembled. They beat the Houston Rockets in 1986. Then, in 1987, the Lakers and the Celtics met again. This is the third time in the 80s, third time in the decade that these two teams met. And it's interesting to note that from 1980 through 1989, one or both of these teams were in every NBA Finals. So undeniably the best two teams in the best decade, great rivalry. This is their third matchup. Lakers have one win, Celtics have one win. Let's see who takes the rubber match. So before we get into it, we're going to take these one game at a time, talk a little bit about what we remember. Steve, 1987, 1986, really. First, let's start there. In my opinion, that was probably the best Celtics team, one of the best Celtics teams ever assembled. They won it all. Going into 87, team was maybe a little hobbled, not the same team as 86, but you had to have had some, a lot of excitement about the possibility of winning again in 87 with a really good team. But I know that the Celtics had a rough battle getting to the finals. Tell us what you remember about the 87 finals.
Before we get to the finals, we remember the Pistons. Boston played Detroit in the conference finals, and they won it in 7. But that's the series, if you've ever seen the picture of it or the film, when Boston was in game 5, it was 2-2. Boston was down by a point. Bird missed a shot near the buzzer with 10 seconds left or so. Ball goes out of bounds. It's off Boston. It's Detroit ball on the side. Instead of calling timeout, and Chuck Daly was a great coach, but this was one he and Isaiah messed up, they were going to take it out. Referee hands Isaiah the ball. Bird is lurking. If you see it again, watch the film. He's lurking. The pass goes in. Bird steals it. Dennis Johnson cuts to the basket. He gives it to him. Johnson makes the layup. Boston wins by a point. So they stole that game. And then game 6, they got blown out back in Detroit. And then when they came home, they won by a few, I think 3 points in that game. They won by, should have been a few more. But the bottom line was Detroit outscored Boston by 26 in the series. And Detroit, you might say, just wasn't ready to win yet because they did everything but win. And I guess all teams, when they win championships in the older days, maybe not today, but they grow year to year.
Right.
You saw it budding where Detroit would be the best team. Now, take that, and then in March, Kevin McHale had a stress fracture in his foot. He was told it could be life. And in fact, I believe he still limps today, but he was told it could be, a problem for the rest of your life. He decided to play. So they were down there. Then one more piece, Bill Walton, who was a great sixth man in '86, he only played a few games that year. And in the playoffs, in the finals, I believe he came in against the Lakers, played for a couple of minutes, but his legs weren't right, and they took him out. And that was the end of Bill Walton. So it wasn't the same team, plus they were a year older. It wasn't the same team, and Boston was forced to and I'm just going to read some numbers. Bird played 42 minutes a game. Dennis Johnson, played over 40. Danny Ainge, who was like the junior member of the law firm, he only played 39 minutes. And McHale played 38 and a half on that stress fracture on his foot. So they were like, and then what's interesting is Greg Kite we'll talk about in game 3, but he was a hero. He came in and played 20 minutes. Over the series, he was the only guy on the bench that averaged more than 10 minutes a game. And that's because of that 20 minutes in that stretch. So that gives you like a rough idea. They were going and with five guys basically, and they just weren't. And you could see now that would be the last hurrah. Right. It would get a little bit worse each year after that.
Right. And you and I talked about this rivalry in detail. I feel like I know so much more about the Celtics now, right, than I ever did before. Do you, and forgive me for kind of going off script here, but something you said there just kind of, got me thinking. 1969 Boston Celtics, they were near the end. This was not a team that was supposed to win, but they came up and won it. Was that kind of the same thing, the same thought process you had for this 87 team? This was a team near the end. If they would have won it, it would have been on par with, and I kind of am giving away what happened, but on par with what the 69 Celtics did?
You kind of said, after seeing the Detroit series and knowing, they're on fumes.
Yeah.
After seeing it, you kind of said, okay, and after game 3, game 4 was the whole series. And if they would have won that game, you thought, but when they lost that game, you knew it's done. And you kind of knew Boston would win game 5 because the Lakers didn't care. They were going back to LA, like what happened in 2008. Same idea. And so and I've got something to say about game 6 later. But you knew at that point it was done. You're always thinking, wait a minute, they made that steal in that game to steal the Detroit series. All these things went on. So you say, well, maybe there is a miracle left here. But you kind of knew. And then when it was over, you knew it was over. In 69, to do the parallel, Russell didn't retire until August. So they win the championship. And back then it was over in May. June and July, he wasn't going. Nobody knew. I think his teammates knew, but nobody, and Auerbach knew, but nobody else knew. So you held out this hope that, this guy keeps winning, even though they weren't real good last year, maybe. But then once he was gone, you knew that dynasty was over, just as this one.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you enjoy it when it's happening, and it's really, really tough to see it kind of end. The Boston Celtics limped into the finals, but they were there, and they're dangerous in the finals. The Lakers had an easier route, right? They swept the Sonics. They were rested. So game 1 kind of, and it kind of not an unexpected result. Let's take a look at these games one by one, and we're excited to talk about Game 4. Steve called that out. Probably one of the best games between these two teams. Go ahead.
Before you even go there,
Yeah.
understand the Lakers won both games during the regular season. Boston won 59 games, which isn't bad for a beat-up team.
Sure.
And LA won 65. 65 is in rare air, and,
Sure.
and so it shows how great they were that year.
Yeah.
And that sets the scene to make you realize, if you're a fan, the Lakers are the favorite.
Yeah. Let's take a look at what happened in Game 1. We're going to pull up just the box score, make this a little bigger for those of you watching. And for those not, we will share. This is the box score from the game. Game 1, you can see here, and Steve just called this out. Look at the minutes played. And think about that as it relates to today's game. Larry Bird, 42 minutes. DJ, 34. Danny Ainge, 32. Very, very little contribution off the bench. You see that Bird came out big with 32 points. The bench didn't contribute much. I see a lot of minutes for Greg Kite, Connor Henry, which is an indicator that there probably wasn't good result.
They got blown out. They were beat
for the Celtics. Yeah. Let's take a look at the score there: 126-113. Which again, keep in mind, right? The Lakers came in rested. They had swept the Sonics, the Seattle Supersonics, and Boston just went through a very, very tough 7-game series. Let's take a look at the numbers for the Lakers. They were led by James Worthy with 33 points. Look at what Magic did, 29, 13, and 8. And we're going to see a lot of that, those kind of numbers from Magic. Just a really good overall balance between the Los Angeles Lakers. And also a lot of minutes played, which is not unusual, I guess, when you get to the finals, right, to see this many minutes.
Michael Thompson was picked up during the year. Kareem was 40 years old.
Yeah.
So suddenly, 34 minutes is a lot for a 40-year-old man. But suddenly they had somebody they can use in the 5 and get Kareem the rest he needed, which was a very significant move that they made. Oh, I see they have a new Rambus. It's AC Green. I forgot all about that. 5th man on a basketball team was AC Green.
Yeah. Oh, come on. AC Green was a better basketball player than Kurt Rambis. Yes?
It's like picking between Jerry Sheesting and Connor Henry. I mean, okay. Come on. Let's think about that.
All right. Oh, yeah, listen. I understand what you're saying. They needed 5. They got
a little bit better. You've got Worthy, Magic, Kareem, and Byron Scott. I think I could have been the 5th guy. And I'm 70 years old. I mean, come on.
I would have paid to watch that. Undeniably.
I would have just clapped. I mean, come on.
Wave the towel. The ML Carr towel.
That's right.
Was it ML?
Yeah.
All right. The Lakers took the lead 1-0. We're feeling pretty good about things. Let's take a look at Game 2. Now, keep in mind, these two games, they were in LA. What do you remember about this one?
If this was a fight, they would have stopped it because it was just terrible.
Yeah.
141-122. You see the score. And they look at the second quarter, and I remember halftime, I just said, I'll watch, but it doesn't look good. So you knew. I think Cooper had a big game in that one too.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Coop, because keep in mind that the 3-point shot had been in the NBA now roughly 10 seasons or so, just really not embraced, quite honestly. But then you saw players like Larry Bird, right, who were starting to shoot it and make it. You saw the value of it, right? Michael Cooper, only NBA player to play in the All-Star dunk contest, compete in the All-Star dunk contest and the 3-point shot contest in the same All-Star game, was a pretty good 3-point shooter. He had himself a game, 6 3-pointers in this game, a playoff record at the time. Magic Johnson contributed 22 points, 20 assists. I think my notes are wrong. Let's take a look.
12, 13 guys who are all
31 minutes.
Yeah, I'm still hearing Steve. Sorry. 22 points.
31 minutes. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, this was a blowout. This was just this was a blowout. You can see that. Interesting. Laker fans today might notice Wes Matthews and think, "What the heck?" Wes Matthews was just on the Lakers not too long ago. This was his dad, but he was on the Lakers.
By the way, look how many threes the Lakers took.
That's a lot. 32 attempts.
Go back and see what Boston took.
Let's take a look.
No. They took 8. Where are you getting 32?
Oh, I looked at free throws. I was going to say.
Go back and look at Boston.
8 3-point shots attempted. Boston attempted
1 for 7. But that gives you a flavor of what the NBA was like back in that time.
Right.
It was more physical and more post-up basketball.
Yeah.
And worked off of that. That's what made McHale so good also. But it was a different game, I guess is the point.
Yeah.
It
really was.
I'll point out. Look at the minutes for Boston. There wasn't a lot. They played a lot of minutes in those other games that were close.
Yeah. So, in a way, Boston got a little bit of rest because they didn't show up in game 2. They had to travel to get back to Boston, right, for game 3. Let's take a look at how things went for Boston there.
One other piece I want to just mention about Michael Cooper. He's just getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, I believe, tonight.
Wow.
What's very interesting, and it's a side thing, but we can have a discussion about he was a very good role player. Does a guy who is a role player and is tremendous at it, does he belong in the Hall of Fame? That's a very interesting discussion to have because the Hall of Fame has always been about the stars of a team.
Yeah.
And Cooper would be one of the first in modern times, I think, role player that got in.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, no argument from me. You if you listen, I'm in LA. I was surprised to hear that Coop made it. Definitely deserves a jersey up in Staples or Crypto. But Hall of Fame seemed like a stretch to me, I'll admit.
I'll give you one other one I just thought of. Satch Sanders.
I don't know his game.
He was a defensive forward. Went to NYU, but which not many guys in the modern times go there. But the point being, he was very defensive, not a great shooter, and usually he was there to guard. But he made the Hall of Fame, and he was a role player.
Well, defensive players have made it. I mean, think of Ben Wallace, right? Phenomenal defensive player, not a great shooter, but he made it and he deserved it. But
that's what Cooper was.
Yeah, well, different though, right? Because Ben Wallace was a starter. Cooper was a spot starter, right? He was not a starter. So again, you could make that argument. I would have no problem with it. I'm a big fan. I think I've told you of Norm Nixon, right? Earlier in the area we're discussing. And he not only is he not in the Hall of Fame, his jersey's not even in the rafters at Crypto, which it strikes me as odd. But again, big fan of Coop. I literally met the guy, shook his hand, and love his game. But yeah, I agree with you. Hall of Fame's a bit of a
It's an interesting argument. It's an interesting argument.
Yeah. Well, look, let's take a look going back, right? The Celtics are down 2-0. And this is a proud team. This is a very good team, but we know they're a little hobbled. They came back and won in Boston, 109-103. Let's take a look at the line and then take a look at the box score. Lakers got off to a big start. Boston responded in the second quarter. They kept it up in the third and just kind of held off the Lakers in the fourth. That's just going off the numbers. Do you have any memory of game 3 at all?
Greg Kite.
The great Kite game, yes.
Greg
9 boards
off the bench when Parrish was in foul trouble. And for 20 minutes, he didn't score because he could never shoot. But he had 9 rebounds, I believe, and really played well. And just, really changed the tenor. And I remember the fans in Boston in the Garden just going crazy for him that game. And in fact, after that game, like the next year or two, he still got a big hand because people remembered that game that he played. And he really had an undistinguishable career. But yeah, that was interesting. And also look at the minutes on everybody. Parrish was in foul trouble. But look what they had to use. Everybody played over 40 outside of Parrish.
Right.
And and so this is what they were doing, trying to just get by and hold on against a better team.
Yeah. Yeah, and so much credit, right, for this team. I mean, if you're a fan of sport and you see a team that's hobbled, right? You see a boxer who's just getting beat up, right? But he just comes up, gets a punch in, and then all of a sudden wins the fight, or at least the round. Boston won this round in what was a pretty impressive comeback, because you knew, and Larry Bird said, right, we lose game 3, and it's over. It's over. Nobody's ever come back, even to date. And Larry Bird, I read a quote somewhere, he knew the importance of game 3, and he got his team ready, and they did what they had to do. Bird himself not only talked the talk, but walked the walk. 30 points. McHale 21 and 10.
Look at the last name on the Celtics there. That's the game he tried to play.
Bill Walton. Yeah.
He was hurt most of the year. I don't remember how many games he played, but he was hurt throughout the year. This was the 6th man of the year before.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If he were healthy, well, who knows? I doubt that. Who knows? But
it changes things. But he got his name in the box score, got a rebound and a foul. So that's
gave him a standing O when he got off the bench. I remember, and all that. Hoping that this guy can save the day.
Right.
But it didn't happen.
Yeah. I guess they were waiting for that Willis Reed moment, but wasn't there. But game 3, clearly important. Boston responded. Good for them. Now we go to game 4, probably arguably one of the greatest games between two of the greatest teams.
Not a good finish, but it was a good game.
Well, and it's a good game because it was back and forth. You didn't know who was going to win until the final seconds, and that's what you love. That's why I love the game of basketball. Let's take a look at the box. Hold on a second. Quarter by quarter. There's the score. Again, we're not giving anything away. Am I still on?
Yeah. Yes.
Hold on just a second. Yeah, I'm glad I am, but I lost the screen. So those of you watching, this is live. So, stuff happens. There we go. All right. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, there's the final, but we'll get to this. There's so much more to this than just the numbers. But let's take a look at this, right? 29-22 to start the game in the first quarter. So Boston, again, let's use that analogy, right? They're punching back. They got that win in game 3. They kept it up, extended the lead going into half. Lakers responded in the third and had a big fourth quarter. Now, in that fourth quarter, it was tied. There were lead changes. It was an incredible, incredible game. Now, we're going to go to the box score in just a minute, but I do want to share with Steve, with apologies, this video here. This is the last 30 seconds of that game. And we're just going to go ahead and talk through it, okay? And Steve, you let me know if this is a little bit too loud. Now, Kareem, you just see, put down this dunk over DJ, if I remember right, to give the Lakers a 104-103 lead. 29 seconds, Boston's got the ball. Let me make this full screen, and let's take a look at this. And again, let me know if it's too loud.
And this cram shot, poor defense.
Is that okay? You can hear him?
That's a great announcer there.
All right. I got to stop it right there. And I think Tommy Heisen, in a little bit, I'll roll the tape here again, and we can see that James Worthy was just on Bird. You knew the ball was going to Larry Bird. Was on him, grabbing his jersey, let go to go guard Danny Ainge, who made the right pass. I mean, today's game, you do not walk away from a corner three-point shooter like Bird.
If you go back on that, you watch they double Johnson. And that means, they had to rotate. Go ahead, run it.
I think I went a little too far back. Let me see.
25 seconds. Okay, Johnson's got the ball.
Here we go.
Got a lot of things to come up with right
this is this dunk here.
40-year-old Kareem, by the way.
Yeah, but obviously with Dennis Johnson there, they must have set some sort of screen. Okay, watch this now. Johnson's got the ball. See how Cooper pinches in, and that you see now they got to rotate.
Right.
There's 2 against 3 guys. Now, to me, I would have stayed out on Bird and left Ainge with the ball out there.
100%.
Once you do that, but you see what Boston did, and in today's game it wouldn't go to spacing where Bird was next to McHale. But all Bird was doing was showing the threat that he can come off a screen going to the middle, and that took away. And then when he popped out, there's nothing there because you can't leave McHale on that. So look at the spacing. Today's game, that would never go because everybody's 15 feet.
Right.
So it's really an interesting sequence, I guess.
Yeah, undeniable. So fun to watch, and you know, I mean, it's not grainy. This is good video, right? Yeah. Listen to Tommy Heinsohn talk about this, and they'll show a little bit of highlights around James Worthy just guarding Bird until he had to let go because of that double team.
Well, when they jumped to Ainge, that was the end of the play.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, I thought it was over right there.
100%. I mean, again, 106, 104. Yeah, the best you could hope for, I think, if you're the Lakers at this point is overtime, really. And look at this. Look at James Worthy just grabbing his jersey.
See, he should have never left.
Wide open.
What's interesting about this, there's another thing too, and I'll mention it now. There's only a 2-man refereeing team then. So you're going to lose a lot of that. The third guy, which is called in the C, he would be able to look off the ball at that. Now, Earl Strom was one of the refs, Hall of Famer, great referee. When the game was over, when Boston lost, Auerbach chased it. Word was that Auerbach chased him back into the locker room, his locker room, yelling at him. They went back and forth at each other. So, you know, and Strom is one of the greatest refs ever. But that was a little sidelight, and that tells you a little bit about Red Auerbach.
Yeah, undeniable. We could do a whole show on. I'd love to do a whole show on Red Auerbach. A lot I don't know, but let's take a look at how this game finished. We all know, but it's fun to watch it anyway. Again, Lakers down 2, 12 seconds to go on the road. Big game 4. Cooper inbounding the ball.
Ooh.
Okay, so he made 1. Okay, missed the second. Off on the Celtics. Lakers have got the ball. That right there. That
would have gone to video. That would have been because that's an interesting play. I didn't realize how. It could have.
And again, let's take a look at what would happen today, right? We would spend the next 5-10 minutes looking at every angle, every review, seeing whose fingertip touched the ball. In this era, the call was the call. It's over.
Yeah.
And so Celtics fans are worried now. Laker fans are hopeful. You've got the greatest point guard in his prime. He's going to have the ball. He's going to make the right decision. Watching, and this is the one time, right, Steve, when we've talked about these games, I had a vague memory. So I remember this game.
Oh, yeah.
I remember watching this game. I remember, and I'll tell you what I was thinking when we see this play out, because I did not think it was going to finish the way it did.
That gives him a chance now to go ahead with a basket. Riley wants to use his last timeout now.
Smart timeout.
James Worthy or Magic Johnson in the low.
Let's let this play out, and then I'll share my thoughts.
Scott is in the ball game now. 5 seconds to go. Magic with a hook shot.
No baby hook.
If you notice, they got McHale on him with the bad foot. The other interesting thing was you would think he would have taken away his right hand, and he didn't. So he gave him the right going to the basket, which percentage-wise he's going to score more going right than left because he's a righty.
Yeah.
They pop him off the screen.
Oh, go ahead.
What?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, they pop him off the screen, and you see now you got those two. McHale, I guess McHale was guarding him throughout because Parrish is staying down there with Jabbar. Bird is playing the ball to the middle. And if you look over on the other side with DJ, I guess that's Scott. And you know what? That pass might have been there also. But you go to Johnson and let things happen.
Yeah. That's the right play. You give it to the guy who's going to make the right decision, right? So let's take a look at this here real quick because
Parrish shows, but then pops back and go ahead.
Right. No, exactly.
Look at McHale's position. So he's giving the right hand. And again, if they're talking, I don't know what was going on. He would have been saying, you got, the big guy behind you. So, in other words, he's going to run right into him. And that's going to open up an avenue for either Johnson going to the hole, and he can always dish to Jabbar if Parrish has to jump out. Go ahead.
Let's stop it right there because that's exactly what I thought. Now, I'm going to see if I can pause this right on time. Look at this, okay?
You see, there's the jump out. Look how open. Yeah.
Look how, first off, Magic Johnson in the entire season never made this shot. Never took this shot, never made this shot. I never saw him make this shot. Now, after this season, this became a part of his game, and he might have taken one or two, but this was not in his arsenal, okay, the baby hook. I thought, watching this game live, this is going to be a hook pass to Kareem.
Yeah,
he's wide open. He's wide open. Kareem is wide open. There's literally nobody in his way. This is a nice little lob pass to Kareem for the dunk. Instead, he took the shot. I could not believe he took the shot. I could not believe he made the shot. Let's watch it one more time.
And there was 3 guys around him.
Yeah, well defended.
Game's not over yet.
No, and that's what's exciting about this, right? Now, Boston's got the ball. They're down by 1. They've got the greatest shooter in NBA history, one of, and he gets off an incredible, incredible shot. Let's take a look and watch this. And I remember watching this live, just freaking out because let's watch it.
And the Celtics have used their last timeout, and Tommy, this is where the Lakers have a foul to give with 2 seconds to go. That if they use it, could limit the Celtics to 1 second left.
You're very right there, but a little good play forces McHale to have to switch out onto Magic Johnson, and he puts that quick dribble on McHale and gets into the defense.
He didn't switch out.
Bird, McHale, and Parrish on him. Unreal.
Yeah, he was guarding him. He wasn't switched out. He guarded him because in that series, if I remember right, Danny Ainge guarded him early, and Johnson was just going to town on him. So they had to come up with somebody bigger, and that's when they used McHale against him.
And Kareem, he didn't get the pass, but he was there in case that shot missed. All right.
It's really hard to see a happy Pat Riley. Watch, what a great play by Bird.
What a great pass. How does Larry Bird miss that shot? Unbelievable. Such a great look. Huge mistake by the Lakers. They got lucky. Because that shot goes probably 8 out of 10 times.
Well, I thought what Bird did to get open, it was just, I don't know why they played topside on him. Because he's going to go back into the corner, and you want to take that away. You play him straight, but that's.
Let's take a look at it again.
Watch how topside. Topside means he's playing closer to the ball, the defender. And that means Bird naturally is going to be able to release and go back to the baseline.
You're very right there, but a little.
Not this one. We're going to, what are we seeing this 23 times?
I'm sorry. I can't control the
yeah, I'm sure. You only get 2 points. They don't get 8 points because you played it 4 times.
This shot, though, man.
Yeah, I'm surprised Jabbar didn't step out and try to take McHale, screen him. Unless he figured he was wide open.
He feels it was built for shooting, and he's proving it tonight. Michael Thompson is back.
And watch how Bird comes up. Watch this. Why is he on top of him?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
Was that worthy? Yeah.
He was lucky, very lucky on that.
Very, very, very lucky. Very lucky.
It just makes no sense why you would top him. Let him get the ball out 40 feet. And let it, and hope, but very interesting.
Undeniably a mistake, but one of the greatest NBA basketball games that you could hope to watch against 2 of the greatest teams to play. And the Lakers survived. The Lakers survived. They got lucky. They survived. They're now up 3-1. And the reason we spend so much time on that particular game is because that was kind of the series, really. Steve made the point as we were kind of prepping for this, right? The next game in Boston, the Lakers didn't much care. If they won it, great. If they didn't, it's okay because they know the next game is in Los Angeles. And yeah, they played like they didn't care. Boston took it 123-108. Again, to their credit, Boston still has to go out there and take the win. They did, even though maybe you could argue that the Lakers weren't particularly motivated. 25-25 at the first. Boston took control in the second and really didn't let up. They won the game. Let's take a look at the box score for the winning Celtics. Just look at that. Look at their starters. Every single starter had 20.
The Chief had foul trouble.
He sure did, but he still contributed 21.
By the way, that's interesting. Also, he had 5 fouls on that play. Oh, this is game 5. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is game 5.
No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. But yeah. So it was, it was a nice win, but it didn't mean anything because they're going back to LA for 2 games, and the odds of winning were slim and none. Now, Bill Walton did play in that game.
Yeah, I see that too. I noticed that too, and contributed a couple points.
Yes, 2 minutes.
But yeah, at that point now, the Lakers are up 3-2. They've got 2 games in LA, and what was expected to happen here, if you're an LA fan, happened. Lakers won 106-93.
This was an interesting game because at halftime, Boston was winning. And I thought to myself, okay, and the crowd was out of it. Everything was nice. And I thought, well, if they can keep this, maybe they can steal this. But in the third quarter, I don't even remember what happened, but the Lakers got a turnover and got a layup and maybe another quick basket. And all of a sudden, the crowd was alive, and you could just feel the avalanche. And they crushed them. They crushed them. I'm looking at it. It was 30-12 in the third quarter. That tells you everything.
Yeah.
That was the game.
And that was it. That was the gut punch that ended this Celtics dynasty. And it was a dynasty in the 80s. It was one of those really cool dual dynasties. The Lakers had a dynasty. The Celtics had a dynasty. Magic Johnson won the MVP. Go ahead, sorry.
One of the shames of this was if the Lakers got hot in the mid to late fourth quarter like that, I don't know if the crowd would have taken, because most of them would have been on the freeway. So the fact that it happened in the third quarter was a big thing. So, if they could have held them off for another 10, 15 minutes, they might have done it, because did the Laker fans stay to the end of the games?
They didn't. And we talked about this, right? It's one of the things Magic Johnson got on LA fans specifically when he got here. I can tell you definitively, by 87, Laker fans would have stayed. Everything changed. But listen, there was an inevitability about this, right? We knew if the Lakers didn't win this game, they were going to win game 7, although game 7 would have been scary. But credit, again, to the Celtics for hanging tough. This was an old team, a hobbled team. They didn't have their 6th man of the year, but for a couple of minutes. They played great. This was 2 great teams at their peak going at each other. Magic Johnson won the MVP. In this game, he had 16 points, 19 assists, 8 boards. And Larry Bird called him the best player that he had ever seen. One of the coolest things for me watching this series growing up is watching the relationship between Bird and Magic. I know it's kind of silly, but watching them kind of appreciate each other now as they're older is kind of cool. And hearing Bird call Magic out that way after this, I remember it was kind of neat.
That's an interesting thing and a very interesting thing. And Magic is very accessible and everywhere.
Yeah. So
the fact that he was one of the greats, people don't realize it. Bird is very inaccessible and nowhere. And so when he comes around, everybody is like, wow. And it's a really interesting thing. I guess what it says is, the more you're out of sight, the more you're appreciated.
Wow.
You think about that, because, again, Jason Tatum at the All-Star game met Bird for the first time. He was so excited about it, and I'm sure he's met Magic numerous times.
Right.
So you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
really an interesting thing because Magic is just as great, well, close to as great as Bird. So, it's interesting.
Yeah. No, undeniable. And having two of the greats appreciate each other as a fan is kind of cool. Well, that's it. That was the last time these two met in the 80s. The 90s were rebuilding season for or decade, really, for both of the teams. And they came back together a couple of times in the 2000s. Maybe we'll save that for another time. But that's it, man. That is our overview of the 1987 NBA Finals from a couple of people who watched it live. I had a great time reliving one of the greatest eras in NBA history. But that's it. Offseason is effectively over. We know that NBA preseason is on. This is 13 Rules, NBA Random Thoughts. So starting next week, we're going to shift back to Steve's great NBA Random Thoughts articles, and we'll be discussing those moving forward. But we learned a lot during this offseason. We learned that there's some great historical games that we hope you enjoyed listening to as we kind of reminisce. And we also learned that there's some great players from the 60s and the 70s that are still around, and we can talk to them. And there's great value in talking to these guys like Kevin Greavy, like Tom Henderson, and there's others like that. And our hope is to kind of expand what we do here at 13 Rules and bring those guys on and talk a little bit basketball from one of the greatest eras in NBA history. But that's all for today. Thank you so much, as always, for joining. Please like, subscribe, all that comment, all that stuff matters. Next week on 13 Rules NBA Random Thoughts, we will discuss Steve's NBA Random Thoughts in preparation for the 2024-25 NBA season. We'll talk then, Steve. Thanks.
Thank you.